Hi, welcome to Broker Banner Denver, where we are breaking down barriers to home ownership. I'm your host, Kim Davis, the real estate expert.
And I'm Patrick Williams, the mortgage guy. We're here to educate and inform about the home buying and financing process.
And on today's episode, we are going to continue our series talking about the Denver metro area, and we are going to explore the north side. And we are going to update on mortgages and also touch base again on the NAR settlement, as it's been a week, and discuss a little bit about what's happening there. But until we get to that, how are you doing?
I am good. The weather, the snow's melting. So weather's been pretty nice in Denver, and I'm excited for spring.
Me too. We actually went up snowboarding on Wednesday, my family and I.
Nice.
And the snow is melting up there. It's pretty bare. It's definitely spring skiing.
Yeah.
It wasn't horrible yet. It wasn't too bare, but...
You got to be careful of getting out too early,
right.
you know, because it's like it melts and gets all soft,
Yes.
and then in the morning it's frozen hard and it's not great snow. But usually if you wait till afternoon and it's kind of mashed potato-y.
We went, it was perfect. We went at about 10:30, 11 a.m. My youngest daughter got her S-turns finally on a snowboard.
That's exciting.
It was pretty exciting.
No longer has to feather down the mountain.
No.
That's good.
I mean, a little bit.
But for the most part.
For the most part, she's doing her S-turn, so super excited.
Once it clicks, you can progress pretty quickly.
Except for I might be switching to skiing.
That's smart. That's about the smartest thing I've ever heard you say.
We'll discuss that next week.
Next week? No, let's talk about it now.
Next winter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why do you want to switch to skiing, Kim?
Because your wife tells me I should.
She is a smart lady. It is a lot easier, honestly. Like, I mean, I've gone back and forth, and it's just like you sit on the lift, you got poles, you don't have to unstrap, and it's just easier on you.
Yeah,
and when you catch an edge, you go down hard on a snowboard.
You do. I'm getting.
You're getting old.
I'm getting older.
Brittle. Little brittle.
Older. I'm not old.
Old. We are all getting older.
You know that one of my friends, Tina, said that we sounded a little old talking about our parking situation when we talked about the South Side.
I totally relate to that comment. I resemble it.
She said,
"There's something
you guys
about
sound old talking about parking."
There's something about having ample parking that really just speaks to my heart.
Yeah.
I don't mind going downtown. I enjoy getting down there. But come on, like driving, trying to find a spot, paying like it gets old.
Yeah. Lunch today, we went out to lunch before this podcast.
I
drove around the parking lot like a good 2-3 times.
That wasn't even downtown. That was on the south side of town.
It was DTC area.
Well, it does get busy at lunchtime.
It does.
Yeah.
All the professionals here.
We are old, and that's okay. I've come to terms with it.
With being older comes experience and knowledge.
Wisdom.
Yes.
I think we're very wise in our old age.
Well, there are people wiser.
There probably are, and that's wise to know that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've come to conclusions that you're old and don't like parking.
But I'm really good at parallel parking.
Oh.
Yeah.
Actually, so I drive a Tesla, and there's a new update that will self-park. I think not only parallel parking, which I know some companies already do that.
Yeah.
But I think all parking altogether. Yeah, I guess it's cost to upgrade. But
I didn't think you want to upgrade, though.
I'll tell you what, that self-drive is pretty amazing.
So there's an upgrade about the self-drive, right? Like that It's
an upgrade to the self-drive.
To dial it back.
Right.
Yeah, so you don't want to... Because it's like it wants you to have more responsibility as the driver.
Well, I'm not talking about that. It's the parking.
Got it.
Yes, they have updated the self-drive so that you have to pay better attention. So I took a Post-it note and covered the camera on the inside of my car so that
sounds like a good solution.
Doesn't know that I'm not really paying attention, which, that self-drive for people who don't own a Tesla is actually really good.
It's pretty sweet.
Keeps it in the line.
My wife has self-drive, and it's not anywhere close to what the Tesla does.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that if everyone got a self-drive car, then we wouldn't have accidents as much.
Okay, so my son, and we did the triathlon down in Phoenix, and they had the self-driving cars, right?
Yes.
Have you seen those?
Yes,
like how
I have.
Confused they
in
get?
Phoenix, what is it?
I can't remember the name of the
I want to
company.
say Menlo or
Something like that.
something.
But they look really weird. They've got like
Yes.
this satellite on the top and all these different cameras. But I mean, they have all kinds of problems.
Do they?
Yeah, like that. I've seen
I
pictures
wanna
of
get
like
in
an
one.
intersection where like 9 of them are all just stuck and nobody knows what to do and it just like nobody can get through.
Well, we were driving in Phoenix, right,
Yeah.
or Tempe or wherever, and they looked great. Like I saw people in the back seat.
Well,
and then
I think
there's
they're in
lot
like a
of
beta
TikToks
mode.
and Instagrams
Yeah.
of people riding in those.
Yeah,
So-
I mean,
and they're only in a couple places, I think.
yeah,
Phoenix.
I think the Bay Area maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And then one other city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I think there's a use for people, and
Right.
not technology is not going to solve all issues.
Have you heard of AI?
I have. It's actually it's pretty cool. Have you used it? Have you
Oh,
looked at?
I love ChatGPT.
You know-
ChatGPT is my friend for writing emails, sometimes text, sometimes some marketing. I mean,
So here-
I double check it because it's not perfect.
You need to. So I had somebody tell me it's a second grader who has the capabilities of having a college education. So if you look at it that way, like, if you give it the right promptings and you make sure that you
Right.
guide it, you can get college degree material from ChatGPT.
Yes.
But it just takes the right prompting.
Right. You have to ask it very specific questions.
Yeah, and if you ask it to tell you what it needs to know in order to
Yes.
recommend, it'll say, I would like to know
That's
these 5
what I
things,
do.
and then you can type up those 5 things.
I was updating my profile, and I just said, Kim Davis, real estate broker
Yeah.
since 2002, and then I just was very specific about things that I do, and it
It's great.
Threw it
Let's
up
be
there.
honest. I think for me, getting started on that stuff, I kind of don't know where to start, right? I'm like, I need to write this bio or whatever, right? And it's like, where do I start? And you just say, hey, this is what I need. And it gives you a good place to start. It gives you some good ideas.
Right. Absolutely.
And then it's like,
absolutely.
okay, or you can ask for a template. Like, hey, give me a template to this, and then you can fill in the blanks.
So let's be honest. Broker Banner Denver was named on ChatGPT.
Oh, I didn't know that.
ChatGPT podcast broker names with the real estate broker and mortgage broker, and it
And it
kinda
came up with that.
And
Well, we do
we must
banter.
liked it.
We do banter. Or bicker.
That's funny, Paula. That's a shout out to you. She thinks we should be broker.
She
bicker.
thought she was really funny making that joke. She's like, more like
was
broker
funny.
bicker. I don't think we bicker.
I hope that you guys enjoy our content and our bantering.
Well, I think sometimes, let's be honest, real estate and interest rates and mortgage talk, it's not the most interesting. We can give market updates and we
Correct.
can just kind of talk
And
about
I
that
think
stuff.
there's a lot of podcasts out there
That
that
do
are,
that.
just very informational. And
Yeah.
we are trying to be informational with a twist, with just
Yeah.
a little fun.
Throw a little bit of fun in
We
there.
hope that you guys have fun and you see our personality.
Get to know us a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that note, maybe we should actually talk about the north side of Denver. What do you think?
I think so. So north side of Denver, which we would consider, I would say,
70?
I-70 and north.
Yeah.
Even though we did kind of talk about Arvada as being part of the west side, they do hug the foothills, but they could be northwest, and then Westminster, Thornton, North Glen,
Broomfield,
Lafayette.
Erie.
Yeah.
Maybe even all the way up to almost Longmont at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Almost. I mean, it's really connected.
It is. It used to be when I think we were younger that was considered a different.
Well, I remember when the north end of town was like 104th.
Exactly.
Like
I
the
do
North
too.
Glen Mall was right there,
Yes.
and there was not much north of that.
No.
And now, Erie and Highway 7, which heads to Brighton,
Yes.
or out, that's all just a part of the
It's
metro.
all
There's the new
considered-
outlets out there. Okay, but what about Johnstown? Like, how far north are we talking? Because that's Fort Collins. Or
Yeah,
getting up-
Johnstown is. I wouldn't say that's Denver metro area, but I would say they did get a new Buc-ee's.
Well, that's kind of
up
why I
there.
brought it up, because it seems to be big news. The Buc-ee's.
It is big news. Everyone's
Yeah.
talking about. Never been to a Buc-ee's. I have to admit that someone brought it up just this week, saying, "Hey, let's go up there." I looked up Buc-ee's.
It's a convenience store.
And it's
Why-
a gas station, right? And they have Tesla charging, they have EV charging, and
it's massive.
over 100 gas pumps.
120, I think.
Okay, and then did I hear it's a 70,000 square
something like that. It's it's this. I think this one. I think they're from Texas, so everything is bigger in Texas, right? It's just this massive convenience store, 120 gas pumps, 70,000 square feet. But it's like a convenience store on steroids, I guess. Like they've got like
they have barbecue,
and like some nuggets or prairie nuggets or something.
They're really known for beef jerky.
Beef jerky.
So if anyone knows about Buc-ee's, you should fill us in on what the rage is.
I mean, maybe we need to go up there.
Well, when Trader Joe's first got here too, I was
a big deal.
What is Trader Joe's? And then, I mean, I like it.
It's good. But there are some of these places that get like cult followings, right?
Right.
Like,
and Buc-ee's is one.
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, I see people wearing like Buc-ee's shirts.
Yeah.
Like in hoodies.
It's a beaver.
It's a beaver. I believe so. Yeah. It is. So the north side though, right?
Okay, so north side. So I would say Johnstown is too far north. I would say, as far as my opinion of Denver Metro, I'd say Broomfield, Lafayette, Louisville, Superior.
Yeah.
We would, and of course.
Longmont, I would say, is almost northern Colorado. You do start to get into almost like some Boulder suburbs as well.
Right.
Like, your Lafayette, Broomfield, Erie, Longmont,
which we didn't really
Niwot.
talk about Boulder because that's not really Denver
No,
Metro.
it's
kind of funny.
kind of separate area.
It really is.
Yeah,
and
I
so but Boulder would, I think, be very far northwest, I guess. But,
For sure.
But Lafayette, Louisville, and Superior, I think a lot of people live there commuting to Boulder, as Boulder is,
That's right.
A more
you
expensive.
You gotta kind of go further out because it's really expensive. It's one of the most expensive metros.
Drive until you qualify, and
That's
sometimes you can work in Boulder, but you may have to live in Louisville or Lafayette, which are great.
They are. All those areas up there are great.
Yeah, actually, we went up to, I believe, Lafayette for 5280 for Restaurant Week, and had a new restaurant that had just opened up there called Jasmine's, and a couple of ours. It was great. It was a drinking and appetizer 5280,
nice.
Very high-end charcuterie board and really interesting drinks. It was great. So
you know what I like to do? I like to kind of explore like little area, like pockets, like that downtown Lafayette area is cool.
Cute downtown.
Arvada has a really cool downtown area. But I think what the North has going for it is that it had a lot of area to be built out, right? Like we talk about 104th being the edge of town back in the day.
Right.
So there's a lot of new and exciting things that are being built up there. You've got the outlets that I think they're like, I don't know, fancier ones than the ones we have down here in Castle Rock. They're like ultra luxury outlet or something.
Really?
Like that.
Where's that at?
It's I think it's Erie.
Erie.
No, I think it's
Okay,
in Erie.
Erie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we could.
Almost Highway 7
Erie is just, I would say, outside of the north.
It is north of the 470 loop, but just barely.
The 470 loop.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's,
like
you've got a lot of
California all of a sudden. The I-25, the I-70.
No, I don't say
the
that.
470.
And I'm not from California.
You just said the 470.
I did, but yes, okay. All right. The 470.
Yes.
No, how do you say that then? How do I not say it?
C470?
C470.
But I guess the
C470 or E over there. But it has a lot going on up there, right? You got a lot of new areas, a lot of new home builders that are coming in.
Yes.
The one downside of that is it seems like traffic is pretty rough up there.
Yeah, especially my husband went to CSU, Colorado State, and they just got beat out in March Madness. But
they did. They won the playing game, which was great. But then I think they only scored like 11 points in the first half. Yeah, against Texas.
Yeah,
it was.
It's a bummer, but it's okay. At least they made it to the big game.
Yep, they were in the dance.
Yes, same with CU. They had to play also to get in, and they made it.
And they made it as well.
Yeah, I think they play today?
They do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Today's Friday.
My bracket's already busted though.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah. BYU really messed up my bracket.
How about Kentucky?
But I had Michigan State.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Jay says that wasn't really a big deal.
No, they were. I think they were favored.
I think they were 7-8.
Yeah.
No, or 7-9, 8.
Oh, it's not like a big favorite.
But anyways, North Side.
You know what they have up there?
Waterworld.
You stole my thunder.
Oh.
Waterworld, yeah. Waterworld's awesome.
Yeah. I went there as a kid. It's been there forever.
Yeah,
I love
Waterworld. Federal Heights, I think, is actually where it is there.
Considered.
And one of the best water parks probably in the country.
Do you know that? I don't know. I grew up in Kansas, and they used to have, there was water. There was, oh shoot, I can't remember.
I don't know.
Something of fun.
Obviously
Worlds of
not as
Fun,
good as
Worlds
Waterworld.
of Fun and Water of Fun, or yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't
but
sound as good as Waterworld.
Probably not.
I mean, they've got the wave pool. They've got all
Love the
kinds.
wave
They've got a roller coaster. I mean, they've got all kinds of cool stuff there.
Well, and they have Top Golf up north. So we have two
Yep,
in the
Top
Denver metro
yep.
area. So one's
Yeah.
up north. They've done
Erie, there's a bike park up there, Erie Bike Park,
Okay.
which is actually a lot of my friends drive from down here to go ride up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
To
they've
the
got
Erie
some
Bike
big jumps and drops and things, and you can ride in the winter if there's no snow, where you might not be able to ride otherwise. So yeah, there's really, I mean, some nice areas. Broomfield, Lafayette, Louisville, all those areas are great. Firestone, Frederick, those
Yes.
areas are up and coming and being built out and really
Yep.
close to 25.
Which I would say, so if we're going to count Erie, then Firestone's even a little bit more north of that. And then, of course, Fort Lupton, which
well,
you grew up in Fort Lupton?
I did. Yeah. Brighton, Fort Lupton area.
Brighton, Fort Lupton.
And back then, it was definitely not a part of the metro area. I mean, it was just a little, farm town. So it is definitely the metro is expanding.
Right.
And I think at one point, we're probably just going to start calling it the Front Range, Colorado Springs to Fort Collins, right? It's pretty much
Where it's going
getting
to be
close
like
to
a
that
Miami,
point.
Fort Lauderdale thing where it's just
Like
you don't
95
know where,
the whole way.
Yep, where
Yeah.
Fort Lauderdale ended and Miami started, or
Yeah,
vice versa.
They just grow into each other.
I mean, we'll talk about the East later, but
Yeah, that'll be next week.
I think even past DAA, we'll have to talk about some of those little towns out there. But Denver's growing. It's people are starting to realize the great sunshine we have
Yeah.
and the great weather. I mean, it's what
We did get 2 feet of snow last week.
we did.
But
Snowmageddon.
it's almost gone. It's almost all melted.
Yeah.
It's been
Well, and
65, almost 70
We're
degrees all
talking
week.
about going on a bike ride tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
So
most
have you
things
ever
are
heard of
good.
surf and turf? You know what that is?
Yeah, like steak and lobster.
Okay,
Steak
but this is the Colorado version, and it's where you go skiing in the morning, and then you come down to Denver and go for a bike ride on the same day.
Oh.
So it's called surf and
sounds
turf.
like a lot of effort.
But that's awesome. How many places can you ski and go on a bike
Yeah,
ride on the same
that's
day,
true.
right? Like
That's because of
one of the-
elevation.
yeah, and one of the unique
Yeah.
things about Colorado.
Yeah,
so.
it's great. So yes, if you already live here, welcome. Don't tell your friends if they live out of state.
Yeah, no, it's our little secret. No,
It's a great city. We're just
it is
kidding,
great,
but-
and there's this great screenshot that I found, and we'll put it up. But it shows a picture of downtown like 20 years ago,
Yes.
and what it looks like today, and it's almost night and day.
Right.
Just
I remember when Elitch Gardens was right there in the middle, which of course
Like-
they've sold and I think will be built
have.
into a area where there's commercial and residential.
yeah, it sounds
in
like
there.
they want to kind of try to connect Mile High Stadium
Yes.
and Ball Arena
Yes.
or Empower Field.
Empower Field.
Yeah, and Ball Arena, and make it like one really cool area. I remember when Elitch's moved downtown.
I do too.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
It was a very big deal,
Yeah.
and that was over 20 years ago.
It
So,
was in the 90s.
and anything else to say about the north side? I mean, north side, I think is, as you said, there's a lot of building out there. You can definitely go newer as far as homes are
Yeah.
concerned, because
Yeah.
if we're talking west side, I would say downtown Denver, and then as you head west, that's where they first started to build, and so those homes are a little bit older. We're talking about a lot of 70s, 80s, I mean 90s.
Yeah.
Is considered newer. Of course, there's pockets, right? They're building
some infill where
yeah.
they maybe tear something
Yes,
down,
correct.
but the
up
north has
north
been expanding.
Is expanding for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, 104th used to be the border of what was considered north, and now I remember 120th, 146, 100. They're all
It's-
new builds and
Yep.
and great place. I mean, they have everything. You don't have to leave that north side of town unless you work someplace else, but everything's up there, right?
Yep.
Great shopping, great restaurants, great entertainment.
Yeah, and
so-
you can go into Boulder and
Right.
recreate up there if you like
Right.
getting. Eldora is not really far from there, so you can even hit one of the smaller ski hills in Colorado.
Absolutely.
So there's everything you want up there.
Right. And you're still really close to downtown, Denver. You can, I mean, I still say anywhere in the Denver metro area, you're like 30 to 45 minutes. Of course, like for us, being southwest to the airport, it's about an hour. But I think we are the furthest.
That's about as far as you can get.
That's about as far as you can
Yeah.
get. So I'm just saying everything else, and especially on the north side, if you are a commuter who, has to go to DIA,
Yeah.
the north side of Denver is a great place to live for
You can get to the airport in like 20 minutes.
Yes,
15, 20
absolutely.
minutes. Mm-hmm.
And there's some back roads that can get to the airport and. Tower Road.
Yeah. You know what I heard actually is they're planning on doing a lot of road work on Pena.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're going to expand it. So that's going to be fun.
They just got the lights working like 2 years ago.
Well, I know. Here we go. It seems like, we are kind of at that point of expansion where it just seems like it's always ongoing construction everywhere.
Right. So when we talk about north side, are we including, or is that more east, the Central Park, which used to be
Central Park,
Stapleton.
Formerly known as Stapleton.
Yes,
I would
probably
say
east.
that's a little more east.
Okay, we'll talk
and almost central, right? I think it is
right. We'll talk about
technically
that
Denver.
next week.
We'll touch on
to
that.
Close out our series on the east side. But
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends that lived up north. One of my really good friends went to Thornton High School, so I went to Golden High School. So I remember traveling up north a lot. And
I lived right off of 84th. I lived right off of 104th. I just kind of kept moving south. I started way up north in Greeley, and
just kept moving south.
Yeah, and then I hit downtown and lived in Cap Hill for a little while, and then I made my way down here. So. The only part of the town, the only part of the town I haven't lived on is the west side.
West side, which sounds like you want to retire in Golden. It's back in my alma mater.
Looks pretty good up there. If I could just go for like bike rides right out my front door, that'd be pretty sweet. Yeah.
You can do that in other places, not Golden.
Well,
like
I do
Cape
have
Carroll.
trails on my side of town, but I call them, it's more like hill biking.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider it mountain biking, but it's fun and I'm thankful for them.
Well, hopefully that kind of gave you a little bit insight into the north. So, and if not, what do you guys want to know about the Denver metro area? We'd be happy to give you our insight on what we know. So, leave a comment or message, and hopefully we can answer anything for you. But
absolutely.
Do you have a mortgage update for us?
Yeah. Well, the Fed came out this week.
Please tell me interest rates are lower.
They did. They went down.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yay.
actually. So the Fed came out, and they do this, every couple months. I think there's a total of 8 meetings per year or something like that. And they said they're still committed to decreasing interest rate this year. We're looking at 3 cuts before the end of the year, so that was positive. They also talked a lot about unemployment. I think they're getting a little bit concerned about the employment numbers that are coming out, and so I think that's a new revelation. It seemed like they were not really concerned with that. So I think that might actually be an indication that we're getting closer to our first price cut during the cycle. The market responded really favorably to the comments. Interest rates went down. We had an intraday price improvement right after the Fed spoke. So I think it was all good news. We've got some stuff coming out next week, some more Fed speak. But it's ever evolving. Things have been pretty volatile, but the 10-year note is looking much better than it was last
So we're
week.
hoping for some lower interest rates, which still means 6s. We're not quite into that 5s yet, but
we're not,
and we don't know if we're going to hit that. But
people
hopefully.
are kind of adjusting their forecast. Initially, we were saying we should be under 6 by the end of the year. Some people Fannie and Freddie have kind of looked at that and maybe adjusted and said it might not be this year that we hit that, because I think inflation's been a little bit stickier than what we anticipated coming into out of the fourth quarter. December, everything was looking really good. Like inflation was coming down. We got numbers for January and February, and they're not as good. So it seems like things might be a little stickier, but we're still encouraged. So good news. Good news from the Fed.
That's good news. So hopefully, lower 6s we'd be happy with. I know they popped back into the 7s.
Yeah, we were at 8.
And once again, we know that it depends on credit score, your debt to income, but
there's a lot of factors
that go into it. But we are talking A paper credit.
General,
in general, they were sitting in the 7s again, low 7s.
Well, in fourth quarter last year, we were actually at 8,
right.
In October. So to be under 7 again is great news. Right. And, I know we've said this before, but
Date the rate.
And marry the house.
Marry the house.
Usually I say it the other way.
Oh,
marry the house and date the rate. It's like it flows better. But
told you we were going to say it every podcast.
Yeah. So if you find a place you love, let's get you in there. Get you qualified, and we can always refinance you later on down the road.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So before we talked about the NAR update, did you hear about
National Association of Realtors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So a big settlement that came out there. But before then, have we heard that Russell Wilson sold his house?
I did actually hear that in Cherry Hills. Is that where he had his house?
He had, I believe, 2 years ago, he was the most expensive sale that we had in Denver metro area. So I know you Californians will find this very interesting, as I'm sure it's not as big of a deal. But
Probably
$25 million when he bought.
I mean, that's a pretty big sales price.
That's a big sales price.
Yeah.
It was the highest at that point in 2022. When he came here, and he, of course, got released from the Broncos. He went down to Pittsburgh, and
they also picked up Justin Fields.
Oh, did they? Oh,
yeah, which is interesting. Who knows? Hopefully,
But you want to know, if we're going to talk football for a second, Jerry Jeudy, who I don't know you, Jerry Jeudy, but he got a $40 million
it's a little
guarantee.
It's a little interesting. Browns.
Yeah,
he signed with the Browns.
interesting.
He's also been on Twitter a lot and
heard.
picking fights with people.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I was listening to a little bit of sports.
I think he might be bitter about his time here in Denver.
Well, that's
we'll
too
see
bad.
though. I mean, he was a first round pick. We got a 5th and 6th for him. To me, that's a bust. I'm sorry, but he's a bust. We'll see how he does and maybe he does better in Cleveland. But I
think we need to give the Walton Penner family a little bit of leeway. They just got they kind of were given what they were given, and now they're doing some changes to make it theirs. I think especially as a Denver person who's lived here for a long time, Denver's all about professional sports.
This has been the roughest period of football in my entire life. These last 8 years have been.
Come on, we have some Nuggets and some Avalanche.
No, that's what I'm saying. Let's talk about them because they're awesome.
We're about to hit some playoffs. But
no, we're gonna have 2 teams in the finals this year.
And you know what they're saying? They being, I think, the Denver Post or somewhere that I read that we probably have 2 MVPs.
We do. McKinnon is probably the best player in the NHL,
Well,
and I don't think you can argue about the Joker.
Yeah.
I mean, last night that game he had.
Last night, as being Thursday the 21st.
Against the Knicks.
Yeah.
He had the quietest triple-double you would have never even known. And he ended up with over 30 points. He almost hit the
triple-double right before halftime.
Almost. I think he was one short of a rebound, maybe. Or assist.
Or something. I can't remember. Amazing.
So how much did Russell Wilson sell his house for?
I believe $21.5
million.
So he
bought it for $25 million.
For $25. He took a $3.5 million hit. But that being said, he also got a guaranteed $100 and some million.
I don't feel bad for him.
So I think
I think he's gonna be okay. But if you're looking short term, maybe you don't buy. Like if you're only gonna be here for a couple years and stink at football, you rent, and then you don't lose $4 million on the resale.
I like Russell.
All right, I don't know. We'll see how he does.
I was a big Tim Tebow fan too, but we can talk about that some other time.
Let's talk about that a different time. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what's going on with the NAR settlement? I know that was brand new news last week.
It was.
And so there's still some...
Right. I'm getting a lot of phone calls. I'm talking to a lot of colleagues from all different, real estate brokerages. So not just RE/MAX, but we're all talking about how this changes the industry and more not how it affects us, but how it affects buyers and sellers. And, things are still in the works. Nothing has been set. We're still waiting for a judge to sign off on the NAR settlement. But, a lot more conversations are being had, between the brokerages. And so not just that, but I think, our number one is like, how does this affect the public? And I think as we kind of touched base on it, the big things are, will it affect how it affects buyers and sellers?
Yeah.
And so as we continue to move forward, we'll see. But, we are still worried about if buyers won't have agency represent them, which can make it harder. I know that this lawsuit, if you're not familiar with it, was created by some sellers that were upset about paying commissions to buyers' agents. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, usually you have a realtor that represents the seller, and then you have a realtor that represents the buyers. They don't have to be realtors, but we'll say realtors for the sake of,
NAR.
The public NAR and
Yeah.
National Associations of Realtor. And that's, you have to be a part of NAR to be a realtor, to be,
Considered a realtor.
Considered realtors. And so, and how it traditionally has worked, of course, it was always negotiable, but that sellers would pay for a buyer's agent or buyer's realtor. So then the buyer would be represented. And why this is so important is because when you call a sign or you call the listing agent, they are representing the seller. And so what we are afraid of in the industry is that how this will affect buyers. Will they continue to get representation if a seller does not decide to help pay? Because buyers have so many more expenses. I think we kind of discussed this last week, right?
They do. It's especially trying to get into this market, right? Like coming up with the down payment. It's just to add additional fees that they would have to pay.
Correct.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
So we're hoping that buyers will continue to get representation. We're hoping that sellers will continue to pay buyers agents as buyers are going to have a hard time paying. And so, like you said, it's still getting, but what the positive part about the NAR is that maybe as realtors, we have a higher responsibility of educating the public, of educating the buyer of what it means to actually have a realtor, to be represented, what do we bring to the table to support you as a buyer? Mm-hmm. And I think it's good information for the seller too sorry, I had a itch on my nose. But it's also good for sellers. We're going to have more education for the sellers too, to if they should or should not pay a co-op fee. And once again, all of that is negotiable.
It always has been.
And always has been. Yeah. Always has been. The sellers who brought this suit, and then of course more sellers jumped on top. We'll see. I think this is a pendulum swing where we'll see that, hey, we're swinging one way, we're going to end up somewhere in the middle. Will realtors get paid less? I think not maybe on the buy side, but maybe not on the seller side. But all we can say is that if you have questions about it, please, call, email, text me.
This seems to be ongoing.
It is ongoing,
right? So things are changing
fast.
People are reading
a lot
into
of discussions. Yeah. I think don't let it scare you, especially if you are looking. Like I have some buyers right now who are buying. It's a discussion that I've had to have with them about what it is that a realtor does, but that's fine. We want to show you our value. We as realtors who have been in the business for a long time, the ones that do this full time, who are professionals, they're going to have no problems explaining to you, hey, this is the value that I bring. This is how I help you. And in the end, save you money. Yeah. Look out on both sides, right?
Well, protect your earnest money. There's so many things that you guys do. Understand the contract, which is really complicated, and complex.
Well, especially in Colorado, we have a 13, 14-page contract. At one point, it was 21 pages, and it's gone down.
I brought that back down. Yes. But no, I do think that the one downside that I could see so far, at least from what I've been reading about it, is maybe there's going to be some hesitancy from the buyers to be represented. And I just don't see how that could be a positive thing.
I think, unfortunately, national news is big news, right? It's changing the whole industry. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of realtors are losing all their money and, you're going to... you can pay less, or, how does this affect? And I think that as a buyer, you just want to have a discussion with your realtor about it and to be informed and to always have representation. That a house is usually your biggest asset that you ever buy for most people. Mm-hmm. And you just want to make sure that you're being represented. And I think that's the big thing. So as a realtor who, this is not just about money for us. This is about representing you, the public, and informing you and making sure that you are...
When helping educate you and guide you through the biggest purchase of your life.
Correct.
Right? I mean, it typically is the biggest purchase. And it's a complicated one. So you want to know that you have somebody you can trust, who understands the process.
And I know that there are some people who are very excited about the changes and what's going on, but we'll see if it continues to, let's hope that it's a positive.
Well, I think we
thing.
just kind of keep talking about this,
Right.
because it does seem to be evolving pretty quickly. I mean, I feel like from the time we spoke about this last week, there's a
has
lot of
changed.
new information that's
Correct.
coming back out. So I think we just kind of maybe touch on
Right.
this, and have ongoing
So we'll
conversation.
continue to keep you updated on what's going on with that, and we'll see if there's any news to update. But as I said earlier, we are still waiting for a judge to sign off on it. If it does get signed off, changes start July of this year, so it is going to happen pretty quickly. And then we'll just take it from there. But just make sure to contact, well, hopefully me, but if not, a realtor who knows and has been in the business for a long time to help guide you through that process.
Yeah.
Buying or selling.
Yeah, well, thank you, Kim,
You're
for
welcome.
giving us an update, because it's a complicated issue.
It is.
And there's a lot of misinformation out there,
Right.
I think. So, well, I think on that note, we probably should wrap this up.
I agree.
All right. Well, if you found this podcast informative, please share us, like us. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes.
Bye.